Hello, everyone. Welcome. This video is a follow-up to the presentation that I gave on prompt engineering for non-tech professionals. So I wanted to follow up with a demonstration of some of the ideas that I presented in that video. So rather than just giving you a slideshow presentation that outlines some of the principles, I wanted to actually show you how an AI does the work. So what I'm going to do in this meeting today is we are going to actually use an AI, present and talk about ways that we used to think about Google style prompts and how we can update those for generative AI. So imagine the case where you have a colleague who usually dreads writing reports, and that colleague is suddenly done in just minutes by learning a few new ways to talk to a generative AI system like Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT. So today I'm going to show you some of those techniques. So my name is Chris Hickman, and today's session is all about making AI work for you without any technical background necessary. So let's start by talking about what prompt engineering is. Prompt engineering is about how you ask questions and gives instructions to an AI. So the clearer you are, the better the output without any code and with only conversation. I always say that whenever you talk to a generative AI system, that you should think about it as like talking to a person in the room with you. You're conveying that information. You're talking about meetings. You're talking about who you're generating correspondence to. You're talking about audiences. You're talking about details. Do the same thing with an AI. So let's look at the roadmap for this demo. So I'm going to walk you through 5 strategies. And in those 5 strategies, I'm going to show you how you can upgrade typical Google style prompts to really effective AI prompts for generative AI. So the first strategy is be clear and specific. So clarity and specificity refers to the way that you phrase your questions or instructions, and that can make a huge difference in the quality of the response you get from a generative AI system. So here's a common situation. You want a summary of a document. So instead of the old way we did a policy update summary, that's something you might type into Google. Just flat out policy update summary and see what the AI gives you. And so it'll give you a summary template. So it doesn't actually give you a summary of a policy that's been provided to you, but it gives you an example of a template that you can use to build your own. So let's update this a little bit more and let's add more, let's be more clear and more specific and add more detail about what we need. So with the type of prompt that we just typed in, it's something you might type into a search bar, but it's pretty vague and it lacks direction. So you'll get what you get from the way that the AI interprets it. So if we look at this, read the following hospital policy update, summarize it in 3 bullet points suitable for a staff nurse meeting, and focus on what changes daily in the work in daily workflows and highlighting any new compliance steps and keep the language clear and actionable. And then I embedded the update in with the prompt. So just remember that whenever we use any of these generative AI systems, don't post anything to a Gen AI that you wouldn't post outside of your office or on a public bulletin board, because this information could be used to retrain the model and could be presented elsewhere. So just make sure that anything that you present to a Gen AI system is not sensitive. So we always make sure that we protect our patients' data. And if you're an instructor or professor, protect your students' data. So if I send this through, it's now going to give me an AI engineered version of the same thing. So the hospital policy update, infection control. And this is something that we can use in a staff nurse meeting. Hand hygiene, PPE and isolation and training compliance with only the details that we need. So you can notice how the AI engineered version adds the audience, the format, and the focus, which results in a summary that you can actually use without any major edits. But I always recommend going back and looking at the output from an AI to see what it is you would change. So let's move on to strategy 2. In strategy 2, we can assign roles for more specific results. So let's see what happens when you assign ChatGPT a specific role or a perspective. So say you're managing a project and need help with deadlines. So rather than typing in how to manage project deadlines, which you might get just general tips on managing project deadlines, break down the work, prioritize ruthlessly, set realistic deadlines, and so forth. Let's add in a role to provide more focused results and then also give more detail and be more specific about what we need. So in this prompt, act as a project manager with experience leading healthcare IT projects. So remember the person in the room that you were talking to, you're now turning that person into a project manager that has experience leading healthcare IT projects. So you're able to reprogram that person in the room with you. So now you're telling it, my team is 2 weeks behind on an EHR implementation due to unexpected vendor delays. What are 3 concrete actions that I can take this week to get back on track while keeping the team motivated and the leadership informed? So we'll go ahead and send this through. And I'm going to stretch this out a little bit more so we might see more. All right. So reprioritize and reallocate resources, transparent communication and leadership alignment, boost team and engagement and morale. So we have actions and results for each one of these. So we can see here that by specifying the role and the situation, you'll get more tailored information for your exact problem, not just generic answers like we saw in the previous Google style. All right, strategy 3. Break big tasks into steps. So breaking down large and complex tasks helps the AI provide a more structured and manageable answer. So as an example, suppose you need to train new staff. So the old Google style prompt we would use is how to create a training plan. So let's just copy and paste that in here. How to create a training plan and send that through. It's pretty broad and can let AI interpret your intention. So in this case, now it's just giving us a training plan. So like it says there, creating a training plan is like building IKEA furniture. Skip the instructions and you'll regret it. So here are some of the steps it's giving you. It's generic, but it addresses the question that you ask, how to create a training plan. And then we can update this a little bit more so that we can add more steps, so we can add more content into the prompt. I'm responsible for onboarding 5 new nurses into our clinic's EMR system. Provide a step-by-step training plan over 2 weeks. Include specific goals for each day, recommend resources, and how to assess their proficiency before they start seeing patients independently. So as we send that through, it's going to give us a day-by-day plan that you can then put to work immediately. So it starts off with day 1 with goals for day 1. Welcome, login, security, navigation, resources, and assessment. And then it continues day 2, 3, 4, 5, and then into the second week, days 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then how to assess proficiency. And then a pro tip, keep a supportive open door policy. For questions in the first month, no nurse left behind. So that's how we can use tasks that are relatively large and just say, give us a day-by-day breakdown, and AI will help you out with that. Strategy 4, control the tone in the audience. So another very powerful technique is to guide the tone and adjust the message for your specific audience. So let's say you need to communicate a new policy or a technical concept to your team. So the old way that we did it was write an email about a new meeting policy. And so it may give us something generic. All meetings must now be scheduled. There's no discussion around nursing in here. There's nothing about that. So what we can do is update this to make it a little more useful and applicable to the audience we're trying to address. So draft an email to my nursing team about a new meeting policy that now requires all meetings to be scheduled at least 24 hours in advance and include an agenda. Make it friendly, clear, and under 100 words, and emphasize how this will help us use our time more efficiently. So now this has become more specific, more concise, and it also discusses the tone and the audience we're addressing. The tone being friendly and clear and under 100 words, so make it concise. and we're emailing the nursing team. So now the content is to help us use our time more efficiently. All meetings must now be scheduled at least 24 hours in advance, including an agenda. This gives everyone time to prepare and ensure our discussions stay focused and productive. So not much difference between the first one and the second one, because the more concise elements in the email that we need have nothing to do with nursing in this case. So we could add more information in here if there were elements of the new meeting policy that had something to do with nursing. But in this case, the two results are very similar. All right. So there's another example here. I'm gonna ask a lot of times to explain technology to folks that are not technical. And that's one of the things I enjoy doing. I enjoy helping folks understand how to understand technology. So rather than just saying something like, and if we talk about tone and an audience, rather than just saying explain AI to non-technical staff, we don't talk about who the staff is, what the tone is, anything around that. We let the AI do the translation here. So it tries to give us some generic information. But what if we said, rewrite this paragraph explaining our new AI scheduling tool so that it's easy for non-technical nursing staff to understand. Use a supportive and encouraging tone and keep the explanation under 75 words. Emphasize how the tool will make shift swapping and vacation requests easier and not harder. So now we've added the tone, we've added the audience, and the way that we want it to answer. Our new AI scheduling tool is designed to make your life easier. You'll be able to swap shifts and request vacation time right from your phone or computer without the extra paperwork. The system automatically matches open shifts and tracks requests, helping you get the schedule you want faster. If you need help, we're here for you every step of the way. So you can see that it's supportive, it's encouraging, it addresses nursing staff specifically, and it keeps it concise because we said explanations under 75 words. Strategy 5, iterate and refine. So one of the best things about working with an AI, like a Gen AI, like ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot, is that you can refine the response as many times as you need. So let's walk through how to make your answer better step by step. So if we say, summarize this meeting, okay? And it says paste the meeting notes. So if you paste the meeting notes in there and you tell it step 1, welcome. Step 2, new hires. Step 3, training requirements. Step 4, retirements. And step 5, we'll say new curricula. Something like that. So those are the meeting notes, and I don't have a transcript. If you had a transcript and you were able to send it to an AI, that's fine, or the main discussion points. So these are the main discussion points. You can say, here are the main discussion points for the meeting. All right. And that's what it gives you with the meeting summary. So then we can make it a little more detailed. We can iterate it by saying, make the summary more concise and highlight action items. And so, of course, we don't have a lot of information in our meeting notes. Announce new hires, onboarding to follow is the assumption after you have new hires. Reviewed required training, staff to complete by the deadline. Of course, the AI doesn't know the deadlines, and it also doesn't know the training to be completed, but it's giving you the next steps. Noted upcoming retirements, transition planning needed to make sure there's a succession plan in place, and then introduce new curricula, staff to review the updates. All right, so now let's iterate through this again and say, now rewrite it to sound more motivational. So the language is positive, encouraging, and we want it ready to share with the team. So great to see everyone. Exciting news. Mandatory training is coming up. Let's stay ahead and get it done on time. Honoring upcoming retirements. New curricula updates are here. Review and get ready to grow together. So you can see that rather than having a bland welcome attendees, great to see everyone. So now we're getting more motivational. So those are ways that you can iterate through prompts to make them more and more useful or more and more applicable to what it is we're trying to communicate. Strategy 6, add context for practical solutions. So adding that real world context, like your specific goals or problems or numbers, helps an AI deliver results that are more practical and more relevant. So let's improve a team workflow as an example. So what we can do is give a old Google style prompt, ways to improve team response times. So it gives, like we've seen before, improving response times doesn't require caffeine IVs, just a few smart tweaks or practical strategies. And it's giving us very generic strategies. And so what we can do is update this with more context. And so we can get more practical solutions from improving this specific kind of team workflow. Our department currently averages 48-hour response time to patient messages, which is longer than our goal of 24 hours. Suggest 3 practical workflow changes that we could implement to cut response time in half, explaining pros and cons for each, and highlight which roles would be impacted. So rather than just asking for ways to improve response time, we've given more context to the response times that we're trying to improve. What is it we're trying to do? How can we, if we wanted to set a goal for cutting it in half, what are some ways that we can do that? And what are the pros and cons? So let's go ahead and send this through. And the AI will give you actionable, prioritized ideas that you can use, not just a random list of suggestions like we saw before. So implement a daily message triage rotation, how it works, pros and cons and impacted roles. Adopt standardization messages and templates and standardization message templates and quick replies. How it works, pros and cons. I'm not going to read through all of these, but you can see how it gives 3 examples of practical workflow changes and what are the pros and cons of each and what roles do they impact. And then it provides a summary of the examples. All right, the next strategy that we have, and our last one, is get actionable meeting summaries. So let's look at how to get not just a meeting summary, but a summary with actions and responsibilities built in. So if we look at what we would type in before, meeting notes summary, and it's likely going to say, well, give me the meeting notes. And so what we need to do now is paste in the meeting notes to figure out what it is we are going to summarize. Okay, so I'm going to paste my meeting notes, and these are pretty scattered meeting notes. Nursing team meeting notes, and of course, these are fictionalized. If I send these through, because I just said meeting notes summary, it's essentially just going to clean them up and give them back to me. Because if we say things like Karen said supply closet mess again, maybe label shelves, then we can say supply closet ongoing mess, label shelves to organize. So let's do this. Let's enhance this to get more actionable meeting summaries than what we have. So there are action items, post clock in reminders, label supply shelves, clarify. So it tried to give us some actionable items, even though we didn't ask for it. It's trying to be as helpful as possible. So now we say summarize the following meeting notes in 5 bullet points for the leadership team. Be sure to highlight all actionable items, who is responsible, and any decisions that need follow-up before the next meeting. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to copy the meeting notes and just go ahead and paste it into the prompt. Huh, that's funny. Anything else? People started leaving before the end. All right, so there's the meeting notes. And let's see what this new AI engineered prompt gives us. Workflow and compliance. So it looks like it has organized the notes into 5 areas: workflow and compliance, organization and supplies, training and documentation, protocols and patient care, other follow-up. So this turns your meeting notes into something that your team can act on. So remember that whenever you're working on actionable meeting summaries, make sure that you make the prompt as concise as possible. Follow a combination of the strategies that we've defined here and work on your prompts. So a bonus strategy that we could use here, let AI be your guide with prompts. If you say something like, I want to create a prompt to summarize meeting notes. Help me create a detailed prompt that provides the most useful information for our leadership team and provides actionable items or actionable. Instead of saying items, let's make it more specific, tasks for our teams. So I'm telling it to help me create a prompt. I want to create a prompt to summarize meeting notes. I could now say act as an expert in prompt engineering with extensive experience in generating detailed prompts. I want to create a prompt that summarizes the meeting. So now we're using a combination of our strategies and asking the AI to help us out with creating this prompt. So I'm going to send that through. And here's a detailed high impact prompt that you can use. Prompt, act as an expert meeting facilitator and operations analyst. So there's our act as. You will receive raw meeting notes from a clinical or operational team. Your task is to summarize these notes into a concise, high level report. Please include a brief summary, 5 bullet points, clearly listed action items, any issues or decisions, a note on any team member recognition. Format your response for easy reading and rapid decision making. So now I can copy this, and then it's telling me how I can use the prompt, how I can adapt the prompt if necessary, and I can also tell it flag any compliance, safety, or patient care issues for immediate attention. So I'm going to paste that in here, and I'll go grab my flighty notes. And paste those there. And let's see what our new AI engineered prompt gives us. Purpose, key discussion points, action items, and responsible parties. Label supply shelves. Karen's got some work to do. Um, Items for follow-up before the next meeting, recognition and concerns. Kudos for Jasmine for staying late on Saturday. Morale issues, missed breaks, and high workload remain a concern. Urgent, address supply, equipment, and compliance issues before the upcoming state survey. So using AI to generate a prompt that you could then feed back to the AI with your meeting notes is a winner. So I'm hoping you can use that and it'll make your experience with AI even more useful and efficient. So let's wrap up, and here's our big takeaway. So you don't have to be a tech expert to get really great results from a generative AI system like ChatGPT or Copilot. So remember, give ChatGPT context, clarity, and intent, and it'll deliver the responses that you can actually use. So try these techniques as soon as you can. Grab your favorite AI system, Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT, Copilot, or anything else, and see how much more you can accomplish with the strategies we've defined. I hope this has been helpful. Reach out if you have any questions.